Robyn, we are live and 10 minutes
Love
late
it.
because a total audio issues on my end. I'm so sorry about that.
That's totally fine. It's technology. It's just the world that we live in, right? We just work with it and we go with the flow.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're my third guest, and I'm so glad to have you. I ask every guest, what can I get you to drink? Even though we're virtual, pretend it's the front porch and tell me what I can get you to drink.
I'm always going to choose between like a glass of rosé or a nice, strong, dirty martini. That's it.
Oh, I don't know how to make any, but quick story. I was working a side gig in high school and I was the person that would go to events and just clear dishes and keep things running. Well, they were short a bartender and the chef I was friends with, he's like, "You're going to pour drinks tonight." And I did everything half and half. And I had the longest
Oh,
line at the wedding. So if you want me to make you a drink, I'll half and half it. And I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
I love it.
Well,
Well,
Rob,
wait, now let me ask you, what's your drink of choice?
oh, that's very kind. So it mixed, but today I'm into this karma. Have you had these?
No,
I know you're a health fanatic, but
I
it's
am.
it's delicious. It's you know yogurt
I love
without
the
the yogurt.
name.
Yeah, I do too, and
Yeah,
this is my favorite flavor. So
cool.
well, yeah. So if you were here, I'd pour you a glass or a dirty martini. I'd make you one. But
Love
as
it.
you know, this is not scripted, and
Yeah.
I like that. So we don't know what to expect. But the theme that I really want to focus on, particularly with you, is LinkedIn. Like, I feel like you have mastered LinkedIn.
Oh.
Anytime, I'm serious. Anytime I've come to you for advice, you have always been protect your LinkedIn, like
Oh,
take care of it, cultivate it. So
yeah.
tell me, what was the changing moment in you from being a casual user on LinkedIn to going all in? Explain that to me.
Yeah. So, I think it's interesting. I mean, listen, I just turned 50, okay? I am a hardcore Gen Xer, right? And so when LinkedIn first launched, this is like 2007, I feel that there was like a crew of us this is when I lived in Los Angeles, right? So my Los Angeles people, my San Francisco people, like we all just jumped onto LinkedIn. And I feel like over all these years, I've used it as a way to either like talk about certain things, of course, find a job, but I never felt that it was as strong of a platform, if you will, as much as like Facebook, Instagram was at the time. I felt that like the professional side of things, you know what I mean, that I didn't really need to go all in. And
Okay.
then I feel like probably over the last maybe 8 years ish, I feel like LinkedIn has had a renaissance, if you will. And I feel like people are finally learning the benefits of using LinkedIn, especially if you're positioning yourself as like a thought leader,
Yeah.
thought leadership, whatever you want to call it, right? But this is a way that that you've got this really particular kind of like platform. It's your like professional platform, right? It's your professional personal brand, if you will, and that obviously I think depending upon the world that you live in, the company that you have, the product that you have, I mean, you're going to kind of like invest in the platform that makes sense to you. So
That's
sometimes it's
right.
going to be TikTok, right? Sometimes it's going to be Instagram. And for me, it finally became LinkedIn just because I don't know, I think I just care very deeply about things. I'm
Yeah.
not like that surface level kind of person. I like to go deep
Yes.
in things. And and I also love writing.
Yes.
And I think the two together allowed me to maybe talk about certain things and express myself in a way that other platforms didn't necessarily not allow me to, but I didn't feel that same kind of connection. And probably maybe over the last maybe 2 to 3 years, I have invested in it a lot more. So
Yeah.
trying to like post every day, Monday through Friday. I have taken a little bit of a step back because I sometimes feel that keeping up with social media can be really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and like the whole topic of conversation, right, around social media. So I just was like, you know what, Robyn, like, what is your intention with LinkedIn and what do you want to do? And I feel like it's almost less about posting every day. It's more about when you're going to post something thoughtful, impactful, with purpose, with intention, to spark a conversation, you know, that kind of thing. Like because I really like to engage with people. I've kind of become a bit turned off with like all these like LinkedIn creators with their like, you know, black and white slides, you know, the black background with like the white, you know, like do these 20 things and you're going to be rich. It's like, come on, like, is this now where we're headed? So I still am like really thoughtful and intentional about what I'm posting, why I'm posting, who
Absolutely.
do I want this to resonate with.
Well, and Robyn, I would say that your posts have been very brave. Like, you have exposed more to the LinkedIn world than I'm not that I have not been that comfortable going that deep on LinkedIn. I am all about building a connection and making
Yeah.
sure that you're being authentic, but you have taken it to a level where I think it does take a lot of vulnerability and brave. And you have the health kind of focus, the birthday, you and your husband celebrate each other so much on LinkedIn. I love those when I see
Oh,
those.
thanks.
But you've talked about your passing of your mom. You've talked about trying to have a child. You've talked about women having a seat at the table. Like, you have really gone very deep in a very brave, bold way. So, like, how can you encourage me and others to maybe be a little bit more vulnerable, knowing that these are people that maybe I won't ever meet in person, and I do
Yeah.
care what they say. How do I
Yeah.
do that?
I guess so authenticity matters a lot to me. And I think that social media has actually taken that away from a lot of people. I think that people want to, and I'm generalizing,
I know.
but especially, I mean, on most social platforms, and if we're going to segment them all, let's say talk about Instagram. You know, a lot of what you see is like, you know, look how amazing, you know, my life is, or travels, or whatever, right? And on LinkedIn, it's like, look how much money I've raised, you know, or
Yeah.
you've had an exit, or that you've, you know, just landed a job. We tend to really almost create this picture of like life is just great all the time, and it's not. And I think that that's part of the damage that is happening in social media. You know, especially with the young people that are just, they don't disseminate this content maybe the way that someone, you know, that's more older and mature does.
Yeah.
And so for me, it is so vitally important to be more vulnerable and to talk about the crappy, challenging, like awful times. Because for one, I actually think that that's where connection comes in.
Agree.
Like that's where
Agree.
connection happens. Like when I and I you know me, like I love like meeting as many people as possible,
Yes.
and you know, and but when I have more of like those one-on-one moments with key people in my life, I like to have like these like more in-depth conversations about life. And so that's almost kind of like what I am trying to resonate on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn and Instagram are like my two platforms. Is what I put out there. It's almost like I'm having a one-on-one with someone. Like I'm sharing this story or this thought, you know, on something. And yeah, I just want people to know like life can be incredibly like stressful and challenging. And I mean, I've talked about when I've had like suicidal thoughts.
Yeah,
I've talked about my infertility. I've talked about like
your marriage.
thoughts. I've talked about like everything.
Yeah, you have.
Because a lot of people tend to struggle in silence. I mean, we just lost, a really wonderful person in our community, a couple of weeks ago. And I think it really shook a lot of us to our core, because you have to ask, like, what are we doing that we are not being maybe just more vulnerable or supportive, or,
Yeah.
it can be hard out there. And I think, like, the pandemic, of course, like, I mean, it really, I just think, like, put all of that on steroids, right?
Oh my goodness. That was
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I had a rough pregnancy. The kid
Right.
needed a ton of attention and surgeries and therapies. And then right after all of that, we go into a pandemic where
Oh,
we have to isolate for a year. And, I'm already like a year and a half into isolation of not getting this kid sick and not being around people or not being in crowded places. And then you throw in COVID after that.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
there were days where I just I couldn't even shower, and
Yep.
but I didn't talk about it. I did not talk about it. And I had to live for my son, and
Of course.
that wasn't even a question, but
Yep.
I would imagine. Yeah. So let me shift on this just slightly, because yeah, we all go through stuff. We all have hard times.
Yep.
You have gotten to a place in your career, um, with your maturity and experience, where you can articulate it and share it in such a graceful, beautiful way. And I adore you for that. You
Thank
kind of had
you.
this two things. You kind of had this moment of change that you actually posted about. It was like a yoga therapy, and you kind of felt like maybe before this session of enlightenment, that maybe you weren't as approachable or always, I don't know if you use the word kind, but that's how I incorporated it. So talk
Yeah.
to me about that.
Yeah. So a friend of mine owns a yoga studio here, and she was just funny. One day she's like, "We're doing a yoga teacher training. You have to come." And I just was like, at the time, I was like, "I can't afford this. Like, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "Robyn, I really want you to come." And it was 8 days, very immersive. Like, I think it was like 8 to 8, you know what I mean? Very immersive, 8 straight days. Every day started out with meditation. And I think just what I loved about this particular yoga teacher training, I don't know how others go, but it was the idea of, you cannot conduct a yoga class if you're not showing up for it in a way that is just like centered and aware, right?
Okay.
And empathetic and like compassionate, right? And it was a very particular like style of training, and just like the pillars of it and whatnot. And we went through like judgment, right? Like, that were so judgmental, like all these like really kind of key pillars when you're looking at it from like a negative aspect. And I just remember sitting there, maybe it was like day 3, where this like epiphany happened, when I realized kind of where a lot of maybe like my anger or like frustration, with life and people was coming from. And just to give people some context, I grew up with parents that didn't have a happy marriage or relationship at all.
Okay.
I grew up with a sister that was handicapped, so I became a mom at a very, very early age, and she had epilepsy, so just dealing with all of that. I was raped when I was 15. And the list goes on. I've had a lot of like really just crazy experiences happen to me. I know I'm not the only one, but I think that creates trauma. And if you don't realize that that's trauma, right? You don't realize almost like what this is creating inside of you, and you're not dealing with it, then that's what you're projecting out into the world, right? If that makes sense. And so I just realized where my anger was coming from and my frustration and how I was almost operating in the world, right? And I think I had like 3 different like major like I mean, it was just like a major meltdown. 3 different times during the course of like 8 days, just realizing how I was operating and like the place that I was coming from.
Yeah.
And I embraced meditation ever since then. And I just realized the power of empathy and compassion, first for myself and then for everybody else. And as soon as I understood kind of like the power of compassion, like for people, oh my gosh, I just saw people and life so differently. It was really just like an incredible moment.
Oh.
Am I still like dealing with it? Yeah, I don't think it's a thing where you come to a place where you're like, okay, I've reached like this pinnacle place. No, it is.
And you're going to still have your moments, right? Where you are going to go out and not connect with someone or not able to be sympathetic that day or that moment. We're human. Like I totally, I, you know, I feel bad that you even have to give that disclaimer because, we have the recruiting happy disclaimer. And I was like, am I going to regret that one day? Like the Ellen DeGeneres type of thing. Am I going to regret that? But I'm like, no, because we define happiness by our success and winning and helping people find jobs and helping hiring managers recruit. That doesn't mean we're always happy, But
Well, yeah.
I feel like we have these disclaimers we always have to put out there now because no one's perfect, right? And man, social media will attack. They will attack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's been very, very helpful in my life, and it is a daily practice.
Well, I think that resilience and that ability to want to form a connection and have compassion, I actually think those are incredible leadership qualities. And as I look back on my career and where I want to take it, I feel like the times where I have been most successful are where I have gone against the fray. Like, this is a really silly example, Robyn, but I remember there was this AR manager and she just didn't like me. I don't know why, but I mean, she would like hang up on me and tell me not to call. But I was so passionate about knowing I could help her. And I knew that she needed help. And I knew people that were kind of in her circle that said that give her a shot, give her a shot. And so I just kept trying and trying and trying.
Yes.
And one day I broke down the barrier, right? And I was like, look, I know I can help you. I would not be this, like, I'm not that oblivious. Like, I hear what you're saying, but the reason why I'm not listening is because I feel like I can help you in this way and bring this perspective and we can be a good partnership. And Robyn, it was one of my best clients ever. We're still friends. And
I love it.
It was just a little bit of like, okay, don't take this personal, being resilient, trying to form a connection, and realize that when she was hanging up on me, like, I got nothing to lose. I might as well get back in there and go for it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's a superficial example compared to all the amazing things that you've done. But on the LinkedIn platform, I mean, people are on it to help improve their kind of social worth and audience and awareness. And I feel like you've done it on such a thoughtful new way. How can someone do this and still protect their brand and find a job and have maneuverability? What would your advice be on that?
So if I understand the question correctly, it's like, how can you leverage LinkedIn, right, in terms of forming connection, searching for a job, maybe kind of like creating some type of a personal brand as well. I think that, so I look across the whole sphere, right, of, different people that I follow on LinkedIn and how they're using it.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, I have found that there seems to be this like new like subgroup of people that seem to be blasting out a lot of messaging, a lot of content. And even if they are engaging on different people's platforms, I mean, I hate to say it, it's not them. You see the comment,
Same.
it's not them.
Same.
It's someone else.
Same.
And so,
It's like
yeah.
AI overload. I mean, it is so, it is because they can write posts for you. And for someone that's not that elaborate writer, such as myself, right? And then competing with someone that is doing these AI posts, it is a very crowded space.
Well, like for me, this is what I think. I think that, there are going to be some people on LinkedIn that will have people creating content for them. I would say this. I would say authenticity goes a long way. And with that authenticity, it's like sometimes, you will have to be vulnerable. Sometimes, and you know what, be mindful of the type of content that you're putting out there, because again, I don't want to go through my feed and be like, here are 20 things that make you a better person, or like that you'll get rich, or like, I want it to be even more authentic. Like, tell me your story. I want snippets of your story, right? So I think that authentic content matters a lot. I think that when you're engaging with other people, please make it you. I don't care if you're like Bill Gates, like Oprah. I don't care what level you're at. I really do think that you need to take time out, even if it's like half an hour each day, and engage with your people. Like you engage with your people. And I think that in order to really leverage LinkedIn well, I think that if you can try and continue to connect with as many people as possible, like really build your network there, right? Your network will lead to your next job, your next partnership, your next sponsorship, your next client, your next whatever. And I think that when you are looking for like a hardcore job, like if your blinders on, I need to look for a job. I mean, you kind of have to go between looking at the job board and just seeing what's out there, but also pay attention to what are the companies that you want to work for. That's or right. what are the companies in that particular field. Follow them. What are they posting? That kind of thing. Engage with their people. There really is a way that you can leverage LinkedIn where it can be a mix of, sure, maybe you have to search the job boards, but don't just search the job boards. Be mindful of like following that company, engaging with them.
That's right.
Connect with like the hiring manager.
That's right.
And then if you connect with the hiring, or even if you go to the hiring manager's profile, right?
Yeah.
Is there like 2 or 3 degrees of separation? If there is, be like, hey, I saw that such and such. Do you mind doing an introduction for me? Like, you've got to do those things, right? So I really do think that there's a really wonderful, beneficial way that you can leverage and engage in LinkedIn while being authentic.
Oh, I just looked at the clock. I can't even believe. I usually always like do a 15-minute warning and hard stop at 20 minutes, and I'm coming up on 25 minutes.
Not you and I.
Not me and you, but you're just a mastermind on LinkedIn. Like, I hope that this message of just like being authentic and connecting with those that you do have, your people, like that's how you win. That's how you facilitate. That's how you find your people. That's how you become a thought leader. And you've done such a good job at that. So thanks for our masterclass on LinkedIn today. It inspired me. I am committed to putting out a story of sharing some more personal behind the scenes. I mean, having a business is hard. It is hard, Robyn. And
Yep.
today is one of those days. I think I have these in the wrong ear hard. But I'm not going to change them. I'm committed. No, I know you're at a conference, so I'm going to let you get back to it. But I'm so grateful. Thank you for being my guest today.
This is great. Thanks for having me. Always good to see you.
Talk to you soon, Robyn.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.